Hello guys, happy new year. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Maryam. This is your first time here. It's no secret that the price of food, housing, whether it's rent or mortgage, interest rates from health to car to house insurance has all gone up. The price of fuel, the price of food, and with income not increasing at the same rate as inflation is, as the price of everything else is increasing, more people are increasingly looking for ways to widen that gap between their income and expenses because they still want to be able to save for the future. It's important when you're saving money to identify your why. Are you saving for an emergency fund? To pay off your debt? Are you trying to widen that gap because you want to save for your house down payment, or you want to save for retirement, or your kids' college, or your wedding? Whatever your reason is, it's probably personal to you, and I recommend finding this why prior to, because it would serve as your motivating factor when the motivation isn't there. So you just want to splurge on that thing or impulse, buy something on impulse. But when you think, wow, this is for my kids, this could go to my kids' college fund, it can be that deciding factor between you purchasing something you don't need and you saving that money. As always, this list covers a range of topics and it's just very multifaceted. So please take what applies to you and maybe leave the rest for somebody else. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Budget. I know budgeting seems like it's not something that's for everybody. Some people think it's not for them. But then with everything, intentionality really should be a guiding factor. You're trying to think about, you want to make a detailed list of what you spend and how you spend it on. Sometimes it can even serve as a bit of a reflective moment of why did I spend this much on this? Or this doesn't bring much joy to my life. Why did I spend so much on it? So having a detailed budget where you list out every dollar, accounting for every single dollar you spend. I'm going to give a bit of an antidote here. Sometime in 2021, I was making much less money, but I was accounting for every single thing. I recently found my 2021 budget, and first of all, two things stood out to me: how little I was making, but how detailed oriented I was in that budget. Fast forward to 2023 June, I kind of had this wake up moment of I'm making much more money, but I can't account for it. Where is that? When I left Vancouver, I was making a certain amount of money. When I moved to Ottawa, it had increased significantly, but then I could not account for that difference between my income before and my income now, because I couldn't track it. It's I know I'm not recklessly spending this money, but because I'm not really keeping a detailed account, I can't really tell you what went where and what changed. And that was kind of my wake up moment of something needs to change. And I kind of had this I made this huge pivot. I started my budget, and since then I have been consistently budgeting. It took me maybe 2 months to kind of find my rhythm and actually put realistic figures in the different line items, but since then it's just been a breeze. I've actually I saved $13,000 more than I actually would have if I didn't sit down and say, this is what matters to me, this is what I'm going to do with my money, and this is what I'm not going to do with my money. Housing costs. For most people, the largest item on your budget is usually your rent or your mortgage. So really finding a way to decrease that is one of the most impactful ways you could increase the gap between your income and your expenses. I recently did this in September of 2023 when my lease had expired, and I moved to, which is currently where I'm at now, I moved to a much less expensive 1-bedroom apartment from a 1-bedroom and 1-den. If you're interested in hearing why, I'm going to link the video up here and you can check that out. But then that made such a huge gap. I put $500 back in my pocket, and that was money that I was just able to invest. All that to say, if you have the opportunity to move to something smaller, something less expensive, maybe get roommates, to just reduce that largest line item on your budget, it really would make a lot of difference. Groceries have become insanely expensive, and everything from the price of eggs to milk to bread, the staples, they have all increased in price. If you order online, just go to your 2021 or 2020 prices and make a comparison to how much they are now, and it would just blow your mind how much you're spending. So really looking for ways to cut this down, and I'll just give examples of ways that I have cut down my grocery budget. Not too long ago, I go back from the grocery store, and that's because I go early in the mornings because you see a lot of deals there. I was able to get meat for less like less expensive, and I just store them in my freezer. Another thing I've also done is like simplify my meals, nothing overly complicated. I know the staple items that I use to cook, and this is very subjective and take it or leave it. But if you have like specialty diets, if it's not something that, it's not like an allergy, it's not like if you're celiac, for instance, not eating gluten is a do or die affair for you. But if it's not something that you have to be on, maybe consider going off of it. For instance, I was keto, and when I was on keto, I used to spend like well over like $300 and above on my groceries, and I spent significantly less since I left the keto lifestyle, just because that specialty food items also cost a lot more. My breads cost like $7 per loaf of bread, like compared to like the normal cost of bread. So like things are just much more expensive. Delete your food apps, avoid takeout. For the most part, I found if you by reducing the friction of making food at home, it actually enables you to eat more at home. Like meal plan and meal prep, at the very least meal plan. So you remove that decision aspect of making the meal, like coming home. If you decide I don't want to meal prep, but coming home, if you know this is what I'm going to eat for dinner, like the moment you come home, you can thaw whatever needs to be thawed, or maybe you do that before going to work, and it kind of gives you this edge. It's like this, you've prepared a little bit, so it removes a lot of that that fatigue of like, what am I going to eat today? Renegotiate your bills. That goes for phone plans, insurance, whether it's car insurance, health insurance, home insurance, and also goes for internet as well. One of the best resources I've found for this is Reddit. I personally go to r/personal finance Canada, and you see like different, I guess you have to go to the specific thread, but you see like different examples, people giving you like their top tips on what they did to reduce their prices. So I did that for my phone plan. I went for paying over like I believe $55 to $38 now, and with like just a very minor difference in in services provided. So like it's a really good resource if you're in Canada to kind of explore that and see. Also like insurance, like shop around home insurance, like where can you get it cheaper? Are you getting the best price possible, the best deal possible? Sometimes the best is also to go to brokers, because like insurance brokers will usually shop around for the best price, and because they get a commission off of the insurance you buy, they don't charge you any money for that. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. So that has been really helpful to me in terms of like line items that I can't really do without. I can't get rid of it, but I can reduce the price if I get like relatively similar service. It's also like important to like not be suckered to being like brand loyal of like, I'm a Talis person or I'm a Rogers person and that's just what I do. Like if the service is not up to par, or if like you could find a better deal somewhere, please go somewhere else. Pick up low or no cost hobbies. Have a coffee with a friend at home instead of going to a coffee shop. Go to a free court and play table tennis, or play lawn tennis, or play basketball, like whatever rocks your boat. If it's like a hobby that you're trying out, it would also be advisable to just like, don't invest in it right away. Just like buy the bare minimum that lets you get into the sport, and then the more you develop interest, the more you develop your skills, then maybe you could invest more. But then look for things that maybe it's a bit of like an upfront cost. Let's say buying the equipment to play table tennis, for instance, like your pad and the balls and stuff like that. But then after that, it's like relatively free once you use like free public services. There's something I call there's food at home rule, because that's what my mom always used to say. Let's say she's driving us home from school when I was in primary school, and I'm like Mom, can we stop at like a fast food place to get food? And she's like, there's food at home, or there's rice at home, or there's this at home. And I've carried that with me if I go somewhere and I'm like, oh, like I just want to get that, but it's just more of like a convenience thing when I know that I'm getting home like 10 minutes later, and I could just do that when I get home. And I just always remind myself, there's food at home, there's rice at home, you don't need to eat out, save your money. Subscription services have gotten out of hand, from food delivery to streaming services. Before, it used to be you pay like one fee upfront and you get that service, but now everything is on a subscription. So you really have to be cognizant of that as you're making your budget. Like, review like the subscriptions you currently hold. When was the last time you actually watched, if you have Netflix, Hulu, HBO, when was the last time you actually watched something on there? And the way I like to do it is I pick something I'm watching and I subscribe to that for a month and I just watch it till the end. Let's say it's like a series. I'm usually more of like a series person, and then I watch that and then I move to the next streaming service if like there's nothing else I want to watch. And heating your house has become so expensive, especially if you live in a colder climate like I do. It's currently winter, and obviously like it's cold outside. You're trying to keep yourself as warm as possible. But something I found that has kind of been like a hack for me is that I'm not trying to get my house to match my temperature. I'm trying to get my body to match the temperature of the house. So since this winter season, I haven't turned up the heater once. Like, it's currently off, like my heating system. I haven't turned it up once. Like, if I wasn't filming, I'll be wearing like my wearable blanket. I'll be very cozy with my socks because I'm trying to look for ways to heat myself up without running up like the bill. Another thing I found out is that in apartment buildings, the higher you are, like, heat rises up. So naturally the apartment actually gives off some of its heat, as long as you make sure that, you know, this let's say between a door or a window, there's no opening that gives way to air coming in on the inside, and you kind of do your due diligence like that. Minimalist roll is called the 30-day rule. So the moment you see something, you're like, oh, I want that, it's like that pause and you put it on a wish list. I have a running wish list. I've had one since 2023. Recently in my kitchen, I wanted like a kitchen runner. Like, it always looks so beautiful. Like, if you know Studio Mickey, in most of her houses, like, she has a kitchen runner there, and I'm like, maybe I could benefit from this. It could up the look of my house. So before purchasing it, I put it on my wish list, and then after looking at it, like in the time when it's on my wish list, I go through reviews and I kind of like, I'm trying to do my due diligence, I'm trying to do my research on it. And after that, I just realized, so I put that in when I first moved into this apartment. It's currently like maybe 4 months later, well, almost 4 months, and I don't want it anymore. The more I looked at my kitchen, I'm like, I don't want more stuff in my kitchen. I kind of like that I don't sleep when I move, so which is a plus. So just having more intentionality behind your purchases, and in a way to kind of curb those impulse purchases, to kind of put like some friction between your purse and stuff. Shop secondhand. I couldn't stress this enough. Some of my favorite pieces in my house is secondhand. My plants, I love my plants. I have gotten all of them from Facebook Marketplace. My coffee table, which is an article coffee table, but I was able to get it on Facebook Marketplace for half the price, which moved with me from Vancouver. So as much as possible, it's great to shop secondhand, because not only do you get the item at a fraction of the price, you also don't pay the initial tax on it, so that saves a lot of money on your part. And although I don't do this necessarily entirely for sustainability reasons, it's also like a good byproduct of doing that. If I'm looking for something before I go to buy it online, before I go to buy it like new, I would always check to see that if there's an option for me to have it buy it secondhand. As an economist, I'm all for stimulating the economy and shopping local businesses, but I'm also for saving money, saving for the future, for retirement, for a down payment, and all that good stuff. So if you're an office worker and you go into your office, you're not remote or you're hybrid or whatever the case may be, bring your food from home. I work 4 days a week from the office. If I just think about it like, oh, it's just $10 or it's just $15. $10, that's $40 in a week. Like, that's no small money. Because I have like my own office space, I have like my tea bags rather. We have a kitchen. I have my cup. It's like my little Dunder Mifflin cup. I make my tea from the office. I bring my lunch in my little lunchbox. Like, everything is just, I try to make things convenient for myself so I can save myself a whole lot of money. Most of the time it's leftovers from the day before, and I just pack it. So in the morning I just put it in my bag. Once I get to the office, I put it in the fridge, and I save that money that I would have otherwise spent like going to get food, because I work from 8 to 4. I'm going to have to eat, and if I can spare myself saving that money, I certainly would. getting yourself additional sources of income. With how expensive things are these days and knowing that our income is not necessarily keeping up with the level of inflation, it's smart to kind of get, what can I do on the side? What can I do in the spare time? I'm on YouTube, that is a side income for me. Some people sell propagation, some like of plants and stuff, like different things that you could do. Some people tutor. Like, what are your skills? What are the skills that are in demand in the marketplace that you could put to work to be able to supplement that income? If you have additional sources of income, you have scaled down your expenses as much as possible. There's only so much you can cut down your expenses. Like, there are two aspects to this equation: your income and your expense. If you've reduced your expenses as much as possible, then the next thing is to focus on your income. Let's say it's time to make more money and just explore your options. First of all, just fill out the job market. Like, what is what I currently do, or what skills can I acquire to be able to make myself more invaluable in the workplace and make more money and to support myself. If you've watched so far, thank you so much for coming along with me. Give me a big thumbs up if you're enjoying what you're watching, and subscribe, and let's get back into the video. Avoid lifestyle inflation. If your expenses increase at the same rate as your income increases, you find that you're actually not making way, because wealth is the money you actually keep, not the money you spend. You get a raise at work. Instead of spending that raise, how about you save that raise, you invest that raise, you get a bonus. Instead of spending that bonus, how about you invest that bonus? Because this is the whole crux of it. If you currently live a lifestyle that you're happy with, your needs are covered, and some of your wants, that is it. You've attained that sweet spot of like, your expenses are right where it should be. Just because your income increases doesn't mean your expenses has to rise to meet where your income is. Instead, you use that gap you've just attained to your advantage and not to your detriment. Evaluate lifestyle choices. So this goes for smoking, excessive drinking, specialty diets. With specialty diets, I've kind of alluded to this in grocery shopping, but it also goes for things like supplements. When I was on keto, there are obviously vitamins that I wasn't getting because I kind of eliminated or decreased to like the very bare minimum some like a class of food, specifically carbohydrates. So I had to get supplements of some of those nutrients that you get in carbohydrates. So that's money that if I was eating a well-rounded diet, I wouldn't need to spend. Then smoking, it's not just the cost of it now, but the cost later. Like, the cost of it now would, if you save that money, obviously it will save you money. But in the future, when you ruin your health by smoking, and this is not even excessive smoking, just smoking, it's not healthy. Like, you would probably have much more health complications than if you didn't. Alcohol isn't cheap. And if you drink a whole lot, like, even when you buy it and you bring it to your house and you drink, it's expensive. It's even more expensive when you order, because there's a markup in restaurants of alcohol. So that's just something to consider. Maybe if you go to the restaurant, maybe you don't order alcohol, you just get some water or tea or whatever, and if you want to drink, maybe you drink at home, and maybe even reduce that. How much, not how much down. This has been a great watchword or watch catchphrase for me in terms of consumer debt and in terms of knowing what I can afford. If I cannot afford the full price of something, I am not going to purchase it, regardless of whether I can afford the down payment of it. The only exception I make for this is a house. It's obviously a purchase. It's one of the largest purchases you make in your life, and most people can afford that upfront, including me. So when I do make that purchase, I would be getting a mortgage. But now it seems like there's almost a financing option in everything. You want to buy a couch, you see Afterpay or you see Klarna, like on the bottom there of like, we'll split this into 15 easy payments. Like, how can you even fully enjoy a couch when you know it's not really yours? Like, after you get that, I have this couch, 24 months later, when the couch is worn, you're still paying on it. And I just don't find, like, if you can afford it, there's a bigger pleasure in saving towards a goal and then getting it, as opposed to kind of you buy something, whether it's an impulse or you buy something that you truly just can't afford. That's just you can't afford it. And then you keep paying for it like months after the initial excitement of having that new product has worn off. If, like me, you live in a city center, like most things are relatively close to you where you can afford to walk. Not only is this healthy, but it would also save you on maybe bus tickets, or if you have a vehicle, on the amount of fuel you have to buy each week. For the most part, I've found that this is more of a convenience items, and the times I have resorted to it, it's because I didn't plan properly. I didn't get ready on time, and so I don't want to be late somewhere. So this happens a lot. Not a lot, but the times where it's happened when I'm going to church. I don't want to ever be late for church, so a lot of times when I'm running late or I'm behind schedule, I would just like order a Lyft or order an Uber to kind of get me there faster. But if I had planned better, maybe on the Saturday before or the morning of, like, I wouldn't have to resort to that. Obviously, there are times that transport apps, like, they come into place. I do believe it has this place where if you're going to, especially if you don't have a vehicle and you're going to places where the transit system just doesn't really go, then you would need a transport app. Unsubscribe from brand mailing list. November 1st of 2024, it's like all the brands had kind of set up their campaigns to be sent out at that time. So everybody was sending me brand emails of like, this is offer Thanksgiving, and this is offer Christmas, and this is only limited sale now, and all of that. And one of the first things I did, I just started like unsubscribing. It was like, great point, I forgot you were there, and I just like unsubscribe for all of them. Because a sale is only really a sale to you if you planned on buying that item, if you had budgeted for that item, because turns out you save 100% of your money if you don't buy any of it. Go to the library. If you're an average reader like myself, you can borrow books from the library for free. Getting a library card is free. Borrowing books from the library is free. Well, provided you return them on time. But then it's free. Like, whether it's still cheaper than buying it new or used, and it saves you on cluttering your home with books that, let's say, you read once and you don't reach for again. And while all fostering the very good habit, I might add, of reading. Have a huge decluttering session and recoup some of the money you lost on those items that are no longer of use to you. Not only do you reduce the clutter in your space, but you also put some money back in your pocket. We're in the age of internet scams, and like generally scams involving technology. So now more than ever, you should be reviewing your bank statements for fraudulent charges, so you can report that and dispute that. If you're not in the habit of reviewing your bank statements, whether it's your credit statement or your debit statement, like charges that are not yours can easily slip there and you would never know. So this happened when I was in Vancouver and I saw a charge. So every Friday, I usually do I review my bank statement, I review all the charges there, and I did that, and I saw like an Uber trip, and I was like, I never take Uber, that's not me, I didn't order anything from Uber. And I found that it was like an Uber trip internal. I was like, I live in Vancouver, and so I called my bank, I opened a dispute. It was like $50. It wasn't a lot of money, but I don't want anyone to take advantage of me and spend money that I didn't spend, and take my money. So I disputed that and I got my money back that was charged back to my account. So like just little things like that would have easily like just gone by if I hadn't checked my account. And luckily for me, I caught it early. It happened on Thursday, I caught it on Friday, and so everything's there. You might be thinking, how does this help me save money? Well, it kind of helps you save money by like not losing money. Automate your savings. If you get paid bi-weekly, you can set it up with your bank to have that money moved to a particular account or whatever to save that money immediately. Reducing that friction would really enable you to save more money and would just know, okay, what is left in my account is what I can spend, and not go above that because you don't have any more, because that money has already been invested or saved for you. Consider a no buy month or a no buy quarter, where you only buy the essentials without any frivolities on the side. So this would enable you to do two things. It would enable you really identify things that you can go without that wouldn't be missed, and it will also enable you to save more money. Sometimes people turn this into a game of like, how long can I go without spending any money on like non-essentials, and they save a lot of money. This is especially helpful when you're saving for like something immediate, like an emergency fund, which if you don't have one, you really should. It can really help you get out of a bind, which hence emergency. This has been a really long video, so thank you so much for coming along with me. And here I'm going to link to my monthly expenses. If you're saying, she talks a big talk, how does she walk the walk? This is how I walk the walk. These are my monthly expenses, usually. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye.